And we are back with another Cowboys and Coffee podcast after week 3, before week 4. We are not happy with how everything has turned out. And much like the dog you can hear, we're not very pleased. D, welcome back. What do you got going on? Talk to me.
Well, we had a nice little vacation, me and your mother, and everything was well until one of my sons called me up and told me Dallas lost.
Yeah.
And basically, that's the end of that.
Well, to put it kindly, it sucked.
Yep.
It was awful.
Started with an S, ends with an S.
Correct. And you know what? Cowboys lose 28-16. Um, the vaunted Cowboys defense let up 222 rushing yards. Josh Dobbs went out there and was 17-21 with a touchdown, which is unacceptable. I'm going to start by saying this before we get into Cowboys garbage. Let's say props to Jonathan Gannon, and we said this last week on the show. Say it this week. Those guys play very hard. He has an excellent offensive scheme, excellent defensive scheme as far as putting those guys in position to succeed. Joshua Dobbs, who came in days before the season started, was named starter days before the season started, has been put in a better position to succeed than Zach Wilson, who's been with that team for a couple of years now.
Excellent
So
point.
they deserve props for what they're doing.
Times two, excellent point.
Both sides, when we get to the stupid Cowboys, he deserves props. We all thought he looked kind of corny and goofy before the season started. He's showing that he's done an excellent job coaching. They might be a couple plays away from being 3-0. If they had Kyler Murray, and I know Joshua Dobbs has played well, but bless you, they're plays away from being undefeated. Being said, Cowboys still should have beat them. Give me your rundown from the game.
I'm going to give you a rundown of the game by the past two games, the first two games, and the word doomsday. It came up. That's why you didn't hear me. I'm not giving you doomsday defense off two games. I didn't give you doomsday. They came up. The word doomsday defense. Doomsday defense Thursday on this last weekend. Wow. More like soft tissue toilet paper where you wipe your rear end with. It was pathetic. You have a journeyman who had just been anointed the starter on a number of teams. Highly intelligent young man.
Yes.
Absolutely. There was no previous games of him throwing for 350, 295 of any of his starts in time past. No receivers to name. You couldn't name. I don't even know who they are.
Hollywood Brown.
The running back Connor, who scored a bunch of touchdowns in times past. Offensive line. And Doomsday. See, it started out because the heart and soul of this team is the defense.
Correct.
And I also, what I mean by that is that's what's out in front, those first two games. I told you they're going to win with a healthy offensive line. They'll dictate this success. And guess what? That was the other part of it too, missing 3 All-Pros. Don't get me wrong. But Dak, $40 million. And let's get on our $40 million quarterback, okay? Our $40 million that we thought deserved the money. Guess what? You don't deserve the money right now. All that stuff is, we're amateurs at this stuff. We think going to this game, Arizona has no chance because we're fans. Other pros don't look at it that way, and they'll never look at it that way. But way they played against the Giants and how bad the Commanders are, you had to be very confident that we were going to win by 3 touchdowns. I was.
Listen, I thought they ran all over the Cowboys. James Conner had 7 yards a carry, 14 carries for 98 yards. Rondale Moore, 3 carries for 54 yards. Josh Dobbs, 6 carries for 55 yards. That's eating the Cowboys alive. The Cowboys, to me, 2 things happened this week. They got too cute. It's 1st and 10, and they had Micah Parsons over the guard in the 2-eye gap, and you had Mozzie Smith on the outside. Well, that's a running down. Mozzie should be inside, Parsons outside. Stop getting so cute for yourself and trying to outsmart these other teams. Like, well, we'll just play our guys wherever. We're going to dominate no matter what. I thought that showed that they did not take this team seriously. and the Cardinals came in and executed, and the Cowboys did not. They were more physical than the Cowboys, offensively and defensively, and they won. And good for them, because Cowboys have a tough time playing in Arizona. They have for years. I hate it. It stinks. That was there. The offensive line for the Cowboys. I'll stick to the defense first. A lot of players I saw missing their assignments. Now, I'm not sure whether that got into your head after a couple weeks. They can just do their thing, go out there and play. Guys were missing their assignments, just trying to make a play on the ball rather than be disciplined and do what they're supposed to do. Now, if I know Dan Quinn, that ain't going to happen twice. That's not going to happen back-to-back weeks. They're going to get all over that and make sure that they change. But week 3, after weeks 1 and 2, where they were doomsday.
Well, nope. People don't, we don't, like I said, we're amateurs, but defense has schemes. They have plays too. And you have to play a team defense. Those first 2 games, they dictated because they got everybody off on third down, no matter who they played against. Brown, the Giants quarterback, or and the other Zach there, whatever his name is there. It doesn't matter. And they had a healthy offensive line. Those things work together hand in hand. But what cost this game was their defensive scheme was thrown out the window. It was nowhere to be found. 221 after that 2 doomsday defenses, 221, and you had a journeyman backup who had no experience on record of saying he had 10, 15 games in a row that he played one year, like Bridgewater is, right. He had none of that experience, and you got beat by him. Coaching staff, coaching staff.
Looked like they came out emotionally flat.
I'm going to tell you something right now. What you should do, and then next practice, have them running sprints like they did in high school.
Yeah, you got a dog.
Have them run sprints in high school. Oh, what? This is one of the ugliest losses in a long time. And now, guess what's coming down the road? I hope that offensive line gets back together this week.
Defense came out flat. It may have been due to the loss of Trayvon Diggs for the year at the ACL injury, which obviously he was playing like an all-pro, maybe the best cornerback in football. It hurts. But you know what? Guys can still make plays. There's other guys. There's talent on this roster. It's not like going from Aaron Rodgers to Zach Wilson. I'm certainly not suggesting they have another all-pro to step up. Deron Bland is not bad. They have players in the secondary that are good. Obviously, Stephon Gilmore is there. But they didn't lose this game because Trayvon Diggs wasn't there, though I think they came up flat, emotionally flat in this game, and it can't happen again. You need to move on. We all mourned the loss of Diggs for the season. Move on. It's football. You can't get hung up and lose games because you can't process that one of your players isn't there. Other people have to step up. Offensively, I thought some of the skills players did fine. Michael Gallup, 6 catches, 92 yards. Then the Cowboys challenged deep. It was very difficult for the Cardinals to hang in there with him. 2 problems. Number 1, the offensive line was missing 2 Hall of Famers and a Pro Bowl center, right guard, left tackle. You had 2 guys making their first starts in their career. One guy who's at left tackle who's just not great, who is a serviceable backup, but not great at left tackle. And then you had, okay, I'm calm. Very poor play calling in the red zone. Again, sometimes you just have to throw it up to your guy, throw it up to CeeDee Lamb, and a back shoulder fade in the end zone. Let him work for it. Let him do it. Because too many of these little dink and ducks, you have to attack this team. They're getting first and goal from the 10, and they're getting 3, 4, 5 yards, and then they're going to field goal on 4th and goal. It's not enough. Not score touchdowns.
And here's the problem you have. McCarthy's experience in the league and Dak's experience. And you mean on a sideline that you guys can't talk this out and say, listen, this is what we're doing here. You got to read this guy, or we're going to shove it down your throat, or get some fullback and start power football. I mean, the experience of those 2 guys, and we don't have any players. We have no players to get inside, get into the end zone. I'm shocked at that. It's like having a chess piece in front of you, and your rooks and bishops are playing like pawns, and you're good. You're running the chess piece.
Well, make no
Oh,
mistake about it, the Cowboys were outcoached this week, and the Cowboys were outplayed. It's not one or the other; it's both. Jonathan Gannon, that coaching staff, outcoached McCarthy, Dan Quinn, Schottenheimer, all these guys. And I've seen some of the tape. They just had the right calls at the right time.
did
Hey,
you see
Mom,
Mommy's hair? How beautiful it looks. The haircut. I just want to look how beautiful that hair is.
looks great, Mom.
It
Thank
does,
you.
huh?
Thank you.
How's
Car's
it-
fixed.
All right.
I fixed the car.
Okay, good.
Hey, car's fixed. That's about the only thing that's gone right for Cowboys fans this week. So glad your car is fixed. Um, there are some other things like CD not working back to the ball in the end zone. The refs picked up a pass interference penalty, which should have been a pass interference penalty.
Oh, okay.
Horrible.
Okay. I saw that. You got to be kidding me on that one. That
And they picked it up. It's not like they didn't call it. They threw the flag and then picked it up.
You got to be kidding me. I don't get that at all. That's not even. It's not even. What do you mean close? It's not a 50-50 call. That's pass interference.
He's
Period.
not playing the
and
ball.
You picked it up.
He's interfering with the receiver who's trying to make a play on the ball. I don't know what else you want. You throw the flag. The ref who said no, it's not. How much money do you have in the game? Is his nephew played for the Cardinals? I mean, it really is a horrific no.
It's got to be his nephew. It has to be his nephew. It's got to be his blood. Must be his son or something out there, because that is a disgraceful, unprofessional, horrible call to not make and take it back. It's that referee should be fined and benched the next game, because it's pretty obvious that's what it is. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it was horrific, absolutely horrific.
Listen, when you go down the sideline and people are pushing on each other, right, going back and forth, boom, 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 and you throw the flag, you could argue both ways. But that right there, there's no arguing.
No, there's no argument. Cowboys lose the game. They're not undefeated. They're 2-1. They move on. Them, like everybody besides the 72 Dolphins, are defeated. They have lost the game. I have a lot of Patriots fans coming up like, "Oh, Cowboys lost this week." Yeah, just like the Patriots lost in 2007. We've all lost, haven't we? So there it goes. Get it. I hope this is a clarifying moment for the Cowboys, saying we're not going to waltz through everybody. And if I know Micah Parsons, he's coming. He is going to be coming for this, because he's not going to let this slide. They're not going to have 2 bad weeks in a row. DeMarcus Lawrence played excellent football, got another sack. Parsons still gets another sack. I don't know if you want to say bright spots, but they're continuing to stack up some stats.
Right.
But we got to move on to the Patriots this week, and you can't be hung up on the Cardinals to the point where you're not doing what we need to do for the Patriots. Last time they faced the Patriots in 2021, they went into Foxborough in the middle of October and won 35-29 in overtime. And now I need to see what they can do this time against a team who is not that good.
Right. And I guess Ezekiel Elliott had a decent game last week and so forth, but it's what we do. That's what we have to do, what we do. And sometimes being embarrassed on a football field wakes you up for some reason, whatever. Now, let me give you another one. You were not around. I was around. Doomsday with Lillian and them in 1971. That's the year they won the Super Bowl. They got beat 35-0 against the Cardinals. They got shut out and gave up 35 points, which is a lot of points back in the 70s.
Yeah.
They went 5-5. They had a team meeting after that. And Lilly stood up, and a lot of players said, like, listen, we can't let Bob Lilly down. We can't do that. They all rallied around it, and they won the Super Bowl that year. But they got crushed 35-0. And 35 points back in the day is a lot of points. But I'm shocked that we lost. Yep.
Yeah.
Now, can I just touch on the Commanders?
Yeah, go ahead.
You ain't going nowhere. Your stadium stinks, by the way. My son told me it stinks. They He spelled Mark Brunell's name wrong, the last name wrong. And the Giants, you're not going to. And Philadelphia, you got the big guy in the middle. Your day's coming too because you're not going anywhere. Anyways, I had to get that off my chest because whatever that means.
Yeah, it looks like the Commanders do or are finally getting something together with new ownership. They have the RFK site has been, I believe, they proposed it and they passed it that they're going to be able to make that to a new stadium because their current stadium, probably one of the worst, if not the worst, in the NFL.
It is. It is. They spelled Mark Brunell's last name wrong. That's my case. Good
They
job.
probably have the worst PR department
Good job.
in sports too. I would say probably the worst PR. I mean, when they rolled out that Sean Taylor memorial, which was just like socks and stuff, like if you're gonna honor him, put up a statue or something, anything. I mean, they just like it's like they went out and just like printed stuff, printed a nameplate, put on the back of a jersey, a number 26 jersey or whatever it was, threw his stuff in. I mean, he used to have his face mask taped and all these things. Didn't do any of that.
Yeah.
Put the most generic
Right.
stuff up there. They were like,
yeah, it was cheap. It was so cheap. And yeah, it was cheap. It was so cheap. Yeah, it was.
Well, this week the Cowboys are home against the
And
Patriots.
Snyder was the worst owner ever.
Oh,
maybe Marge Schott.
right. Him and Marge Schott are two who really pushed the envelope for horrible owners. Cowboys are home against the Patriots this week, a 4:30 game. The Patriots do not have a good offensive line. They've been beat. Mac Jones has been beat up. He was beat up last week, and if the Jets even had a competent quarterback, they would have won. The Jets lost to the Patriots 15-10, and we're going to see the Cowboys need to go in and impose their will defensively. Then get back to basics. And this offense is not tremendously explosive. It looks like they have wide receivers from a local Pop Warner team out there. They're probably the worst position group team in the NFL, specifically the receivers. They've got decent tight ends, don't get me wrong. And Ramondre Stevenson is a good running back, and Zeke's just, a good, solid backup, I'll say at best. But what's the key to this week for the Cowboys?
The key is their offensive line, believe it or not, if they're coming back healthy. Jerry mentioned that it's a possibility, and that dictates, as I've been saying, what they're going to do, running the ball and passing the ball. And let's see if they've gone into the XO in the meeting rooms and see if the Schottenheimer is going to take over the play calling, okay, and get McCarthy. Hey, I tried it. We're going to let him take it over. I'm predicting it. Okay, I'm predicting it. They don't do anything this game. We're scoring points. They got to win. I'll take a 13-6 win. That's fine. 13-12, 2-0, 3-2. I don't care. You got to get a win. And your own ballpark? Nah, never lose in your own ballpark. Never.
Yeah, Jerry said it's entirely possible. All the linemen are back this week. Tyron was a last-second scratch. Zach rarely misses anything. So I think you might see both of those guys back. I think Zach's definitely back this week. Tyron is possible, and they're still out. The jury's still out on Tyler Biadasz, but we'll see. I think Udoga, Brock Hoffman, and TJ Bass played okay. They didn't play poorly. I think Udoga played the worst of the three, which is surprising because Brock Hoffman was awful in the preseason. I really don't want him taking any valuable snaps. TJ Bass, I like at right guard, but you need those three guys back. The Cowboys won the game of possession, but they didn't dominate offensively like they could have, and they didn't give Dak the time to make the plays. And McCarthy's calling plays that really do need time to set up. So if you have the offense, especially against the Belichick defense, who's going to try and confuse you, and Dak is good at that. Dak can read defenses. That's one of his strengths, and perhaps one of the best in the NFL at reading defenses pre-snap. And I think a lot of people say that. So this week he's going to have linemen who he can make the calls and give him time to make plays off those calls.
And I told you 7 plays over 50. It's game 3. We ain't even got 1 yet. I said 7.
Well, the problem is the Cowboys, when they challenged the Cardinals deep, were making plays. They just weren't calling plays because they didn't feel comfortable with the lineman, or when they called the plays, the lineman just didn't give them the time. There are a couple of plays where if Dak has another, second to make his reads. He's got receivers open, but he's flushed out of the pocket. Well, this team has Matt Judon. This team has edge rushers who can get after you. They are not a team that you really want to let tee off on your quarterback. They're 1-2. You need to bury them and take care of business. Josh Uche is very good. Juwan Bentley, these guys can get after you. Don't give them the time of day. Christian Gonzalez is one of the best young cornerbacks in the league. I bet you by the end of the year, people consider him a top 5 cornerback. He's that good. The fact that I need to say this, the fact that the Detroit Lions took DeAndre Swift and traded him to the Philadelphia Eagles and then took a first-round pick and signed Jahmyr Gibbs, who they refused to use, instead of keeping Swift, who's shown that he can be very good with offensive line, and drafting Christian Gonzalez. That's why the Lions stay the Lions year after year. They're stupid decisions. If he's that good to take a running back in the first round, like the Falcons are doing with Bijan Robinson, he better get the ball in a million ways. And they're not doing it. I know that's something different, but Christian Gonzalez falls to the Patriots, and he is phenomenal.
And I remember I said it. Well, I was really being facetious, actually. Gonzalez overrated. Anybody get drafted by the Patriots as a corner, your days, you're making a Pro Bowl automatic. It's amazing.
I actually picked him for the preseason to be defensive rookie of the year. He's that good. Yeah. He goes with this scheme. He is legitimate. Offensively, the Patriots, Mac Jones might face some league discipline. The Jets and the Patriots got a little testy this week. Pardon the pun, but it also looked like Mac Jones was either grabbing or hitting Sauce Gardner's private parts, which that could be. He could be. I don't know. A suspension is
really
a fine. Yeah, they got into it and they were upset, and that's what it could be. Now listen, Devontae Parker, Juju Smith-Schuster, Kendrick Bourne. That's nothing to me. Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki, those are good tight ends. And, you have to keep an eye out on those guys in the middle. Van Der Esch is going to be important. Crossing the – no, we're good, baby. Just where the kids pass. Someone pass it in front that I know. That's all. But you have to the linebackers in the middle. Damone Clark's got to step up and have a big game this week. Some of those safeties like Wanye Thomas and Marquise Bell, who didn't have a lot of snaps this week, they need to play snaps. And when they do play snaps, they need to make them count.
Well, they better not be getting up 220 yards rushing the ball. I can tell you that. Again, this is the thing. Offensive line and that Schottenheimer, this guy McCarthy's been around a long time, and Dak been around a long time. Why are we struggling in the red zone? I don't understand. There's something really wrong here. Struggling with veteran quarterbacks, a quarterback and a veteran who's iconic with the West Coast. This Texas toast is burnt. It sucks.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a lot of talk online that the Cowboys needed Zeke back as their short yardage guy, goal line guy. Unfortunately, the narrative doesn't fit because on Sunday they were 5 for 5 on 3rd and short, 4th and short. Yeah. It's not Zeke who they need, it's the play calling. Now, what people did say is the person they really need back and who they miss, here's my question for you, is Dalton Schultz. Do you think Dalton Schultz is missed in the offense?
No. What it's missing is play calling.
Correct.
That's the play calling. That's it. It's play calling. There's something not right. They're not clicking. They're coming up to line of scrimmage. The play is called. And they all criticize Garrett and the other guy more about not working. This is not working because it's not.
Right.
Not working.
He's
Let
good.
Schottenheimer call the plays.
Well, he needs to have a little more input in the plays in the red zone, I say. At least give him the red zone.
I'll take the red zone. Yeah.
Cowboys are moving the football into the red zone. They're fumbling in that red zone. Now, thankfully, Bones Fossil does an absolutely incredible job. They find Brandon Audrey, and he's one of the best kickers in football this year. He's done absolutely exceptional. and he's going to be in the Cowboys for the next, 5, 6, 7, 8 years.
Mhm.
This is his second year playing professional football. He played in the XFL before, or USFL, excuse me, and was a soccer kicker, but he's done excellent. He missed what, one extra point, and I think he's done pretty well otherwise.
Yes.
So, yeah,
Well,
they have a very good, as always. Their special teams is phenomenal. Um, but I'd rather see more of him on extra points and less of him on pure field goals because they got to score. Schottenheimer needs to have a little more hands on, or whether they need to involve Dak more in some of the play calls. But the current thing, the current offense seems to be moving much more laterally at the goal line, which doesn't work in the red zone because defenses don't drop back. They're sitting, they're right there on their toes, and they're just driving downhill at the ball. So unless you're going to do a
yeah.
misdirection, kind of like Andy Reid does, where he'll have tight end coming through the middle and a shovel pass to Kelsey in the middle of the field, but that he opens the play up and it's still moving forward. The Cowboys aren't doing that, and it's showing. And you got to push. You have to push the envelope. You have to take more chances.
Schottenheimer. Yep. Mhm.
Schottenheimer, it is. Well, is there anything you want to talk about? Anything else you want to say today as we're continuing on this podcast? Anything else we're talking about?
It's a long year. I guess we can talk a little bit about 3-0 fantasy football. We bring that up. I beat Junius. He got beat you last week and but we'll see what happens with fantasy football. 2-1 in the church. Got a long ways to go, baby.
I had a couple of big wins this week to get back in.
How many points did you score? Like 180?
Yeah, I definitely had a big bounce back this week. So I'll be honest with you, it was good. It was good to be back because it was a rough go for a couple of my teams for the first couple. I got beat week one because by like 4 points because one guy had Tyreek, and I still only got beat by like 4 points. So I'm not really worried about that. Um, we're my teams they're in good shape. So I lost.
Let me talk about the Chicago Bears, about that coach. What's the guy who does the punting? He has his own show at ESPN. What's his name?
At McAfee.
He brought it up, and some of the guys who played with that coach or been on the staff said he's high character. Shocked, whatever this is they're very shocked at what this could be. It sounds like it could be painkillers. That's what it probably sounds like. The FBI involved with it, and he said his physical and his family. That I don't think it's anything else, that because they were all like shocked at anything that this guy's character would be attacked. And that's a good thing, thank God. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
I hope. And he said it was for his health, so I'm hoping
right,
that it sounds more like he was addicted to something. Unfortunately,
yeah,
painkillers is very
right,
difficult, and you know, we don't judge him or put him down.
exactly,
We hope he's getting
yeah,
help.
because right, right. Mm-hmm.
Go from
But
there.
Fields against Denver this week. How about 70 points, 10 touchdowns?
10 touchdowns is absolutely insane. I mean, you cannot be Sean Payton and talk about how bad a previous coaching team is, and then guess what? What happens that week? What happens that very week, the first week? Oh, you're not getting plays in fast enough. You're getting delay of game penalties. The thing you were trying to crucify him for, amongst other things, and you let up the most points since 1966. If you want Russell Wilson out of town, just say it. He stinks. He's a bum. Get him out of there.
Yeah.
Because you're certainly coaching like it. You're coaching like a bum yourself. Listen, and the Bears this week face Denver. It's whoever loses that game, they're going to absolutely. Oh,
Who's going to watch that? Who's going to watch that game?
That's the toilet bowl at 1:00. Chicago versus Denver. Listen, whoever loses that game, guess what? The tank is on for Caleb Williams. There's 2 games where there's winless teams.
And come on, listen, Fields. Don't be blaming your coaching staff that you ain't blah blah blah. Shut your mouth up. You go up there and you say, "Listen, I got to play better. It's my fault. That's how you do it. You know, me blaming the coaching staff. Okay, yeah, and then nobody should defending go against. It's all of you guys, coaching staff, yourself. It's everybody. Okay, it's everybody. We said with McCarthy and Dak, come on, you two guys can't get this together.
Correct.
Yeah,
They
together.
went out and got Justin Fields weapons. They got him a
Yeah,
number one receiver. They got him a right tackle. You know, Rashawn Johnson is a good running back. It's not like he doesn't have anything, and they are horrendous. He's not making his way through his reads. He's not letting the ball rip. I mean, which is funny. You look at what's going on in Indianapolis and what Shane Steichen's been able to get out of Garner Minshew and Anthony Richardson. That's what you should have put around this quarterback in Chicago. And they're not. Now, they stink so bad, and they happen to have a first round pick. They could have two high first round picks. You know, the Cardinals have played very tough. Are they an 8-win team? I don't think so. I still think they're a 5 or 6 win team at best.
right.
So them
You don't know.
Chicago, you have a couple of top 5 picks and mess around and be right there for Caleb Williams, and then you can trade Justin Fields for scraps to somebody and have Caleb Williams there. So Justin Fields has to figure it out because this is his audition the rest of the year. It's week 3. He's got 14 games to play because if he don't play well, there's so many quarterbacks in this draft. Justin Fields will not be starting for the Bears next year if he doesn't play well the rest of this season.
That's it. Mm-hmm.
And things are going very well in Las Vegas, aren't they? They're going super well. The Raiders are.
Did you freeze? All right.
Yeah. Catches up. The
Yeah,
Raiders.
yeah.
The Raiders stink.
The Raiders are pathetic. I'll tell you, bringing that guy, there's no way I would have brought him in. No way. Sean Payton, yes, you got to give him a come back and coach again. But give that guy, no way. A coordinator, I'll bring him as a coordinator. Call him plays. Yep.
And I want to tell you something. We have about
Head
4
coach,
minutes.
no way. And guess he'll be back to New England next year.
Yes. So I wanted to run this by you. The Jets play at home against Kansas City on Sunday night. Those poor guys are going to get killed. What I was going to say is the Jets, the reason why I don't think Robert Saleh will survive this year, I think he gets fired at the end of the season. Here's why. They have absolutely horrific team culture. Last year when the offensive line wanted Mike White to start over Zach Wilson, they all came in with Mike White t-shirts and wore it.
No way.
Elijah Moore, they were winning games, and he was complaining about not getting catches last year. That's bad. This year, Breece Hall and McCole Hardman are complaining on social media they're not getting enough touches. It's bad. It is. And on the sideline this week, Dalvin Cook is screaming at a position coach. It's out of control.
You
I
might
don't
be
think
right.
he trusts him. I really love Robert Saleh. I think his cultural building for the Jets, I don't know if it's Joe Douglas or if it's Robert Saleh. It's both. It's unacceptable. And I don't think they have the mental fortitude. I don't think they're united enough to survive this season. Aaron Rodgers was the glue. And since he set the culture for the team, and now that he's gone, the season is over. And I think they're going to have to move on from Robert Saleh after the season. Listen, Saleh is an excellent defensive coordinator, one of the best, but he's not the guy as a head coach I've seen with the Jets. Maybe a second go around a few years down the road, but right now, unfortunately, I don't think he's the guy. And they're going to be looking for another offensive. They're going to be looking for another head coach in the offseason.
You can be right there. Absolutely. Those things showing that he doesn't have the locker room. Because listen, I wouldn't have, if any of those players did that and went out there and yapped that stuff, they'd be right in the locker room the next day. As soon as I read it or heard about it. No, you can never do that. And coaches, for the most part, don't throw players underneath the bus for the most part. Through the years, and Parcells and Belichick, they're a little bit different. Those guys are, they would throw their mothers underneath the bus. So everybody knows that. You know what I'm saying? But that's not a good thing. And The tone is set by the coach on that
Disaster.
sideline. The
Over.
talent's there, but listen, you lost Rodgers, you lost, and you move on. The problem is they stuck with this guy, and there's nothing there.
Nothing there. What you have
He
to
is
do.
worried. You know what he's worried about? I'm gonna tell you what he's worried. He's worried about them girlfriends. That's what he's worried about. He got girlfriends on his mind.
He has
Mm-hmm.
no confidence. He's not the guy.
Mm.
I'm just going to tell you right now, if you're going to bring in a West Coast guy who's an offensive coordinator and ready to take a shot as a head coach, Eric Bieniemy's the guy. Sign him. I'd rather have him with the New York media than Jim Harbaugh. I'll tell you that. Listen, all I'll say, we have 1 minute left. What do you got to say? Anyone, and shout out to anybody this episode?
You know, let me see who I'm gonna shout out. I'm gonna have a shout out to Son Junior. Proud of you. Congratulations. You know what I'm talking about. You're gonna do fine, son. You're gonna do fine because you got a good example right here. It's called "You Know Where Your Father Is Every Day of Your Life." Remember that, and that's your heavenly Father, not me. See, you got mixed up.
He stinks. I'm not saying that to him. Whatever. Oh, congratulations, Bill. Who cares? Yeah, I'm gonna shout out my wife because she is carrying around a massive child of mine that we're having in a couple weeks. Ready for boy number 2. Zeus is here.
Yeah,
boy number 1. Boy number
that
2.
little
Zion's on the way.
Tyrannosaurus stop. What do you go with? What was the one with the horns?
Yeah, Triceratops.
You little Triceratops coming out.
Yes, sir. He will be. Listen, that's Cowboys and Coffee. You'll find us designated report. Find us on YouTube, the Cowboys and Coffee podcast, or wherever Spotify, Apple, iTunes. You can find us there. We love you guys. Catch you later. God bless.
All right. Take care, buddy. Love you.